Is my voice okay with this volume? Okay, cool. So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Techno-optimism look like, even if I use my smartphone too much, I have LASIK surgery, therefore it's okay to spend so much time on smartphone. I think this is not really a fundamental solution to my eyesight, or like the fundamental solution to addiction and so on. I think like what the opposition side has to defend is that like why like jumping into like these short-termist like technology is actually beneficial. We say that this is actually bad, therefore very proud to propose. A few things in my speech. Firstly, framing. Secondly, talking about how this narrative likely manifests. Thirdly, why it is easy for people to actually opt into like these kind of narrative. Fourthly, why it is really harmful to believe that technology can actually solve everything. Fifthly, if I have time, like the counterfactual. Then one by one, for framing, I have 2 pieces. Firstly, I think in both sides of the house, there's positive and negative aspects of like technology anyways exists, right? However, the difference here is that on ops side, they can only like emphasize like the positive side of technology is, for example, like, and this is like ignoring like the negative aspects that exist. This looks like, firstly, general public only see like the positive parts or only see the optimistic parts of this technology. Secondly, these general publics actually jumping onto like these technology instead of like sticking with like the traditional methods that is going to be ignored. These traditional methods look like, you know, for example, like volunteering or donation, or actually like, you know, these traditional methods. This looks like, you know, using ChatGPT instead of like researching and so on, right? I think this is likely to occur. Second, framing. I think like technology development anyways occurs in both sides of the house. I think like this motion is only about the narrative of how people view like the technology. Therefore, I think like there's no change in the incentive structure of like how governments or corporations have to like solve these kind of problems exist in both sides of the house. Therefore, like development occur either side. It is just how like the general public will act upon to like solve these problems, right? Okay, then how does like these narrative likely to manifest? Like simply, I think this narrative likely to be manifest on like media or SNS, where like these big corporations glorify like the new technology as if there's something as a really big savior, right? I think like, for example, for like saving like, you know, social problems on, they will say that reposting on SNS actually works and actually you can change the world, when it actually does nothing practical for like the people who are suffering on the ground, right? I think like these glorification of new technology likely to happen via these medias and SNS. Then why people are really easy in order to buy into these narratives, right? I think like the premise here is that people don't want to get the blame, that they are the ones who are really contributing to the problem. For example, like environmental like problems such as like, you know, pollution and so on, right? I think like although there are so many social problems, and although like the society is constructed by individuals who are actually contributing little by little, I think like these people are likely to don't want to get the blame. Thus, I think when these like techno-optimism rises, I think like several things happen. Firstly, I think and I think like they're likely to opt in because because firstly, I think like traditional methods such as donations and like planting trees takes a lot of time, and the outcome seems really far, right? I think then like by only using technology, it seems like as if you can do something and so on, and it's I think like really short-term, really dopamine rush. Therefore, I think like that's actually likely to opt in, and like traditional method likely to be neglected, right? Secondly, I think like negative like critics less likely to reach like the discussion, because like everyone or like the media is like blindly believes in like that we have like optimism in the future, therefore we don't really have to do something. Therefore, and like no one wants to engage in these like negative like critics when this is like the majority of the cases. Therefore, I don't think that's likely to reach. Thirdly, I think like because nowadays people use like the rely on technology or convenient ways of living, I think like they are likely to opt in, right? Then what is like the implication here? I think firstly, they're abandoning like the long-term effort, that is to say like traditional methods that will actually do some like practical outcome, even if it's little by little. This looks like, you know, bringing your own like, you know, water bottles or something like that. Secondly, like people ignoring like the current problem and like actually pushing the burden into like the future generation. This is to say like that this technology is going to develop in the future, therefore it's okay until I die and so on, right? I think this is likely to happen. Then why is it harmful to believe that technology can solve anything? I think like that's 2 things. Firstly, I think it takes like takes time for like the technology to actually manifest in like the society, right? Like think of environmental problems. I think like there's many processes in order for these scientific like methods in order to manifest in the society, because they need experiments, they need like conducting, and like they need like promotion and so on. I think like in terms of that, I think even if there's like a great idea and people actually buy into that, I think it takes really long time for that to actually be effective and actually solve like the whole root cause of the problem, right? Secondly, I think like most importantly, I think most of the cases it doesn't really actually do something to like practical outcome, because like note the fact that like these individuals are only being used or only using like these technologies. I don't think they're actually doing anything active in order to reach to like the solve cause of the problem, right? This is important since I think like regardless of like any like problems of like environmental or social things, I think like this is going to take really long term in order to save. And I think like although like these problems anyway has to be solved, like from like the perspective of individuals and the society, I think the whole society relying on this like glimpse of hope that technology will do everything for me is actually really harmful, right? Then what does the counterfactual look like? Two things. Firstly, I think like negative outcomes will be reported to via media or SNS. As much as like the positive outcomes, right? I think this is simply because like people will not really have like people are not likely to have that much like hope in technology and say that like but like this technology takes a lot of time and so on. I think like that is likely to occur. Secondly, and most importantly, I think like emphasis on individual or like the narrative that like technology is only like an option that you can use for like solving the societal or like environmental problem likely going to occur, right? I think like this looks like much more emphasis or like on like traditional things such as donation or like volunteering and stuff like that. I think that is likely to happen. Like the burden push on individual is much more likely to happen because that's what you can do. That's what you can do at that point, rather than like relying on like future technology and so on, right? Therefore, we are very proud to propose.
Right. Thank you, the Prime Minister, and now invite the leader of the opposition.
Am I in the right place? Okay. Something, did you leave your ring here? Not yours? Sure. Thank you, Chair. I think the Prime Minister engaged in the wrong dichotomy of in this debate. The motion says that this motion is about the rise of such optimism. What this suggests is that there has been a recent rise in populations thinking that technology development is actually a good thing. It's important to acknowledge that their view of the world, that in our side of the house, we have to support a world where everybody engages in like optimist view. That is wrong. We are going to debate that there has been traditionally a world which has been fearful for new technology, but then we have a rise, and that is good. So basically, we think that all their harms are actually being taken down to that extent, because we say that how to use technologies or how to use it best is going to be discussed better on our side of the house. We tell you that in a world where techno-optimism is on a rise, it basically doesn't mean that you should use technology wherever we want. There should be absolutely no restriction. We think that there's going to be a certain degree of discussion in how we use it and how we discuss it, because even for techno-optimists, they don't necessarily just advocate for the most extreme. Two reasons. Firstly, I think they are aware of the fact that there are techno-pessimists in society as well, and they need to make them. We need to persuade them to invest as well. They also acknowledge that within techno-optimists, there are different degrees of optimism. Some people may think technology is great, some people may think it's not that great, but there's a value in investing in it. We think that you need to discuss in order to make sure that technology is invested into and developed, and that's what happens on our side of the house. Rather on government side of the house, the narrative is going to be uniform. It's going to be, when there is no rise, there's going to be a bias towards new technology coming in, and everybody's going to be technology yuck and not necessarily engage in it, and that's bad. What other things did we hear from their side of the house? We think that they told us like there's going to be like a stupid use of technology, like instead of researching by yourself, use ChatGPT. Like again, you can restrict it. We can discuss on how to best utilize ChatGPT in order to enhance your academic ability. All that kind of things happen on our side of the house. Secondly, they told us that you push burdens onto the future, like you exploit the environment. We think this is firstly not true because I think people generally love their children, generally love their grandchildren. They can expect that they're probably going to have descendants in the future. They want to reserve Earth for the better. But secondly, we think that there's a discussion on our side of the house. Doesn't necessarily look like we're going to leave Earth. We're going to exploit Earth as much as possible. The discussion is going to be like, we do not need to give up on growth in order to protect our Earth, because technology is probably going to solve that. Technology is going to find a balance between growth and environmental protection. That's what happened on our side of the house. Now, let's look at the two issues on our side of the house. First of all, why we think that there's going to be more investment into technological development, especially nowadays. I think the impact has come through things like development of the AI. That is going to massively benefit. Secondly, I think we're going to talk about market penetration of these technologies. When people are more optimistic and there are countervailing views about optimism, it's more likely to lead to better penetration of these technologies, and that is going to benefit people a lot. First of all, let's look at the premises. We think in this debate, when you don't have the rise of techno-optimisms, what is going to happen is that the only uniform narrative that exists on Earth, on their side of the house, is going to be fear towards new technology. It's going to be thinking that new technology is something that it is not worth investing in. So because we think that a lot of people do fear changes because they have status quo biases, we also tell you that there are powerful people in media, in corporations, who do not want to change current structures because they're benefiting out of it. We also think that there is a human tendency towards fearing something that you don't really know. That's why you meet some new people. You are become defensive. A lot of people become defensive in trying to make contact and engage with that person. At best, we think that their side of the house is not, even if it is not pessimistic views or fear, I think at best it is neutral, being value neutral towards new technology, and that doesn't really promote any changes to the status quo because you're only thinking that this is something that is not necessarily that important in society. So investment. Why do we think that investment happens on our side of the house? More development, more investment happens on our side of the house. First of all, we think that in order to develop the technology at all, you need first of all a lot of money to flow in, a lot of human capital to flow in, and that is much more better on our side of the house. Why is it? It's because on the side of investors, when they see a value in investing in this technology being able to solve all problems of humankind, we think there is this great value to invest. Also, when they perceive that when there is a rise of techno-optimism, they would reasonably guess that a lot of consumers are going to exist. Therefore, they invest into that technology so they can get returns out of it. Also, from the side of human capitals, rather than going into finances and other boring stuff, they would choose to go into this interesting, optimistic world of living because it makes them feel good. We think the results comes in a lot of forms, like for example, quicker development of medicines through AI technology that saves a lot of people potentially, or like configuring ways to manufacture goods without wasting a lot of material. Also good for society, and the scale is massive. We think all these benefits happen exclusively on our side of the house. Secondly, we think that the likelihood of these kind of technology being used by the market, by customers, companies, smaller companies, is much larger on the other house. It is important to acknowledge that we need to include like small, medium enterprises, people who are like having family businesses, to use these kind of technologies. These companies are likely to be very small. They are likely to be more risk averse towards using new technology. Why is it? It's because unlike big companies who tend to hire like forward-looking people. They are running in small-scale businesses. What that means is that they're likely to not change. They don't see a value in investing in and adopting new AI services into their operations because they see that the initial cost is much larger. They don't see an optimistic future in investing it. That's why they don't necessarily change their operations. The result of that is that, for example, people would still have to work in small companies, like long hours, low payment. When you introduce AI, most of their work can be replaced by AI. They will do it. They can go back home, have more lovely lives with the family. Also, you may be, because your services and your goods become more added value because of the fact you use the AI to configure what's best for that service to improve, then you probably have pay rises and all these kind of things, which again benefits a lot of people. Now, optimism is about looking at a glass and thinking that this is half full or half empty. On our side of the house, when more and more people, because of the rise of optimism, think that technology is like half full rather than empty, we think there's going to be a lot more investment, lots more people having fun with using it, and that's better. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the leader of the opposition. I invite the Deputy Prime Minister.
Pronouns are she, her. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Note that the most important person in this debate are individuals on the ground. I don't see why we have to protect venture capitalists who already have a significant amount of financial capital and protect them. I don't understand why these individuals need to be prioritized. Okay, so a couple responses towards off-bench. They told us that at best it's going to be value neutral. We agree, I think that's a good thing. A, that likely means that blindly opting into technological progress or technological products that promise new advancement is prevented. B, rather than saying that convenience that technological progress creates is above all net positive, even though there might be significant harmful outcomes in the process of creating this product, or even though convenience increases, it likely creates more problems on the ground for these individuals, such as rising prices or something. I think when the convenience that technological progress and outcome establishes through advancement far outweighs all of the tangible harms that occur, I think that in and of itself is an incredibly bad thing. We are okay with the value of neutrality, and we are okay with pessimism. I think investment occurs on either side of the house. Firstly, because A, venture capitalists tend to be quite curious individuals of the unknown. I think they have large amounts of financial capital that are able to support a relatively risky venture. B, in an untapped market, I think there's likely to be less competition for financial investors, even though the rest of the world might be skeptical of technology. I think you're still likely to be able to want to invest into these arenas, right? Okay, even if investment decreases, I think we're completely fine with that. A, this means that less risky investment is going to occur. I think that in and of itself is a positive, because that means that risky projects that could impose harm upon individuals greatly decreases on our side of the house. I think it is not justifiable to fund these projects just because venture capitalists want to, even though there are no tangible risks that occur from people who use these products or people who are exposed to these products in the first place, right? B, I think that likely means better evaluation of whether there's actually going to be tangible benefits that outweigh the harms when you invest into the creation of this technological project. I think that's far likely to have better outcomes for society as long as this technological advancement and progress impacts everyone that is exposed to it, right? Okay, let's move on to our case. On counterfactual. Firstly, I think our counterfactual looks like the technology is treated as one of the solutions that exist, but not the ultimate resolution that everyone should opt into in order to resolve current issues, right? I think that likely looks like this is not that things like convenience or like the shiny newness of like a never seen before technological product is not the only metric for how you evaluate whether these solutions that are created by technology are of value, right? I think it's likely to I think it's likely to be treated and evaluated on all of the other solutions that exist within society, and I think that's a far better world that we can create on our side. Secondly, people are able to evaluate the positives and negatives of technological advancement and products before implementing them in their lives. Why is that the case? A, criticism of technological progress occurs. I think that likely means more media coverage of like the benefits and harms of technological things like AI and things like that, right? Most of the people who have previously raised concerns for like technological like optimism and the products that everyone seems to be, endorsing. I think that this is likely to happen since social media on both off and on social media is likely to pick up on the negative voices surrounding these, given that the dominant narrative no longer becomes technological optimism, right? Yeah, I think that likely means things like de-influencing trends, things like trends of de-influencing, in which individuals start to expose like Amazon products or like Apple products and states like the negativities that exist within these shiny new products that are being endorsed to you. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Then let's move on to impacts. Firstly, then I'll take it.
The emphasis on the problems of the misuse of technology is likely to happen much more on your side of the house contrary to what you say, because in your world, the world is likely to become more techno-pessimist or techno-fearful, or whatever it is.
Okay, we don't really see why that's a problem, given that that means that individuals are better able to evaluate whether technological progress actually imposes better things within their lives. I think that means that they're not going to be blindsided by companies that sell them these shiny new products that supposedly make their lives better. I think that means better evaluation on our side to actually evaluate whether these things have like net benefit over like the very minimal benefits that are imposed upon you. Okay, cool. Then impacts. Firstly, less likelihood of blindly opting into technological problems to resolve these issues. I think that also means less trust towards technological progress as the one-and-done solution for resolution. I think this also looks like evaluating whether things like social media have like better outcomes for your life, rather than just looking at all the positives that it can be imposed upon these things, right? Secondly, it prevents individuals from easy opt-in of social media as a way to resolve guilt or contributing to social and environmental movements via SNS or other easy to opt into tech-supported options, right? People have guilt of being complicit in social and environmental problems, but feeling bad for using, for example, like feeling bad for using plastic and things like that. To resolve this guilt, I think easy methods presented, such as reposting on social media to spread awareness, is readily available on both sides of the house, and they feel as though they have done their part in order to resolve these issues. But in reality, these actions do not have any tangible outcome that contribute to resolution of this issue. I think that means on our side of the house, resolution of this guilt necessarily means that you actually have to get up and do something in order to resolve. I think that looks like cutting back on uses of plastic, or like actually going to rallies, right? Actually like donating and things like that, right? Thirdly, stop spending money on useless shit. I think why companies are able to capitalize on technological optimism to glorify their products and nudge people to buy things. I think A, they're convinced that it's life-changing. B, they market it as something that's incredibly shiny, and C, it's treated as a status thing. But in reality, you're just draining individuals of their financial funds by getting them to buy into a technological product that they necessarily don't really need in their lives in order to better it, right? Fourthly, new technology necessarily creates new problems. Tech optimism becomes the tipping point for individuals investing into technological development. Why is that the case? A, it validates risk in order to achieve technological progress. B, it justifies risk for technological progress. And C, that means outcome demand that justifies all the harms that are imposed. Yeah, I think that in and of itself is a net negative, very powerful to propose.
Thank you to the Deputy Prime Minister, and now invite the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Okay, thank you, everybody. It's a bit weird. They are saying that there are some problem which is very important, like environmental problem, something like that. Then speed is not important. Speed is very important because of the current environmental problem or the many problem about development of medicine or AI, financial something. It's very important to actually protect people in need. In this kind of situation, this new techno-optimism are likely to enhance speed of development and also more access to those kind of users. That is very beneficial for the protection of the people, and that will be done more effectively with good check and balance system. Therefore, we oppose this motion. Three things. First of all, how individual evaluation towards technology cannot be achieved on their side. Rather, negative connotation is likely to be amplified on their side. How that is not rational, we say. Secondly, in our side, with rise of techno-optimism, clear political discourse to try to be accountable exists. Lastly, I will explain how on our side, faster development of technology exists that is better for the vulnerable population. I will explain one by one. First of all, rather in their side, the people are likely to be more negative and they cannot estimate the proper potential benefit of the new technology like AI or something like that. Which my partner already told you how individuals are unable to have that kind of proximity in the future. Two reasons we already told you. First of all, preference people's nature to prefer status quo because there was some ambiguous fear about new technology because they feel to some extent comfortability to the status quo. In this kind of situation, people in nature have some biological urge to fear of some very new things which might threaten your life in the future. Secondly, especially in people who are already enjoying the pre-existing structure have incentive to do negative campaign. They are already having the benefit, they are already getting a benefit without that technology. If the technology develops and more, that the people's job might be displaced, the job of those people will not exist. In that kind of situation, they have incentive to negatively campaign and amplify the feeling of the negativity of the new technology. In that kind of situation, for this information, people will underestimate the potential benefit of the new technology. If there's new technology, the people's the burden of the job or the creative burden of job will be decreased and negative. A new medicine developed and many patients will be saved, or more creative things can be done by the generative AI or something like that. Those things will be underestimated on their side. Therefore, necessarily the development of those kind of things will be later. That's why that is very problematic because we cannot save people. Secondly, let me explain how discourse on our side look like. We say that is more nuanced and check and balance system. Then, even with techno-optimism, discussion about some danger of technology exists. Framing is here. We are talking about right. We are not talking about a very, very predominant word. We say there is a tendency that there is a technology optimism, but still some check and balance system exists. I have two reasons. Firstly, because we can assume reasonable critique from the potential victim of the rapid growth of those kind of technology. For example, strike by workers, an actor or actress in the Hollywood who will be replaced by AI or something like that exists. Through media, SNS, people can understand this kind of voices exist. Secondly, those things will be focused on, especially when technology things will be focused by the media, then because it will take more viewer or something like that. In that kind of situation, they have incentive to, okay, there's a massive benefit in the development of AI, but still some minor problem exists. Or if it's too much rapid, there might be some struggle of the people suffering something like that. The balance is not about benefit will be larger, but some minor problem and the actual voice of the citizen are still reach to the people. Therefore, the politicians have incentive to cater to demand of those kind of strike from workers and those kind of potential harm. For example, usage of the deep fake AI in election or something like that. In that kind of situation, with check and balance system, people can discuss about some negative point with great investment about the technology. That is better way for us to rationalize discourse and effectively develop and protect people. This context is our yours. Lastly, let's talk about with techno-optimism, how people that investment will be faster and this can save people. We say on our side, more development of technology exists for three reasons. Firstly, because investment from investor will be increased very exponentially, because bar to invest in the new technology will be lower for two reasons. Firstly, because of the techno-optimism, the prosperity of new technology are likely to be seen in the many media as they conceded. In this sense, the visualized benefit will urge some necessity to give money to getting good return from it. Secondly, because people collectively start investing because they want to follow trend. For example, intuition pump is a bucket effect. Like the famous investor started focusing on the Japanese market or stock, then many foreign investors imitated that action because they see that because of this investment, maybe Japanese economy will be flourished. This means that they can likely to see the very concrete benefit of investing money to Japan. The same mechanism will apply to us because of this techno-optimism. Famous people will invest in, therefore they will visualize a quick return from those kind of investments. Therefore, the more collective action by those kind of individuals exists. Therefore, amount of investment is exclusively done on our side. B, like scale of economy work. If you invest in the facility, you can use very good machine like supercomputer, something like that together. And also B, like the interaction of intelligence, right? Like place like Silicon Valley, that there are many AI developers. Those people will work harder, and because of high salary, because of that many investments, they can have interaction in the Silicon Valley. They think, oh, this AI can be used in a different area, or this AI can be used in different area. The technology I'm developing is adaptable to this area. Just like this interaction will largely happening, therefore speed will be larger. Thirdly, like more feedback from user exists because people not afraid try to use that. Therefore, there are many users on our side. For example, ChatGPT are used by Japanese people. Then the creator say, "Oh, Japanese people very creative usage of ChatGPT is very important for us to fix the problem of ChatGPT." Just like this, because we can get many feedback from a user, the creator can fix troubleshooting the problem, try to develop more. In that kind of situation, why is it important? Two reasons. Firstly, because this will save people to be creative, to be more effective in the finance or something like that. This can be good. This is very good. Secondly, if there are many people using, the cost to use will be decreased because they can make the cost to use cheaper because many participants, right? Therefore, outside can protect more people.
Thank you, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition and by the Government Group.
Is my voice clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Opposition premise is two things. Firstly, technology will be developed by the techno-optimism, and secondly, people can have like better discourses in order to improve the usage of the technology. I think these premises cannot doesn't proven by the opposition today. I think those kind of two things are like insufficient explanation coming from opposition side, and I will break down the opposition premise. And that I think that opposition side case doesn't remain in this round. Mainly two things. Firstly, why like technological development unlikely to technological development is not exclusive to their side of paradigm. But secondly, why better discourse unlikely to occur, and thirdly, why in our side of paradigm we can have good usage of the technology. So firstly, about technological development, there's opposition side like told like technological development are available in their side of paradigm in the more like quick manner, etc. Since there's like more investment of human resources, etc. Note that from the Prime Minister, we already told you that technological development requires a lot of time, even if it's kind of like immediate problem, etc. I think that it doesn't mean that like a company actually have the capacity to develop immediately. it's not only about the capacity of the company, but also like procedure that we need to like pass in order to make usage of that technology into like normal manner. I think there's many process, like for example experiments, or like for example taking pattern or etc. I think those kind of process is really complex and require a lot of time. I think in their side of paradigm, it is difficult to deal with the immediate problem that exists in the present situation, and like require solvency. I think in their side paradigm, they cannot deal with immediate problem in the very first place. But secondly, about the long-term things, the technology anyway required to develop in both sides of paradigm. I think that also in the government side paradigm, there is a requirement to the development of technology in order to make like convenient, etc. In that situation, I think the long-term like development of the technology doesn't change since the company have the incentive to like invest into, like if they're talking about that there's massive incentive to like invest into the technology considering the future profit, etc. I think those kind of incentives do exist also in the paradigm, especially when we know the value of the technology. I think this point is not have the marginal differences between the government side and opposition paradigm. I think this case is not kind of a winning issue coming from opposition side. Before moving on to the second contention, yes.
So even if technology development is not exclusive on our account, but we told you that exclusively is likely to be used by small and medium companies,
Right.
which comprise like 90% of the economy, when there is optimism and we see a need benefit in using
I will
it.
explain that point. I think that anyway, those kind of technology will be used by the, like for example, large corporation, etc. Those kind of like usage in the large corporation will likely to be trickled down to the like small company. Since firstly, I think those kind of like usage of technology are going to be normalized with like considering that those kind of like technology will be prevalent into that industry. But secondly, when these kind of like technology are widely used, I think those kind of the price of those technology are going to be lowered since like these kind of like technology are going to be prevalent in the society. I think in that situation, like small company also available for the technology, which means that small company also have the like opportunity to get use this kind of technology. The difference is the marginal delta in the extent marginal like delta in the time that they can is going to be available for the people. So these are the things that so their side of the argument onto like small company doesn't matter. But secondly, why better discourse unlikely to occur? I think that discourse will only occur when people have enough knowledge to discuss onto that point. I think in the opposition paradigm, in opposition paradigm, there's less knowledge for the general public to like discuss onto this issue. Why is the case? Firstly, the lies means there's going to be massive amount of explanation onto positive aspect to the extent overwhelm information on negative aspect. In the very first place, in the opposition paradigm, negative information are less likely to reach out to the general public. This looks like many PR posts perpetuate on social media. Corporation put this tech is like ultra modern and like no fraud to incentivize people to buy, to impress the company to be like shiny, etc. You repeatedly access information on positive things as opposed to negative things. Obviously, like people only have access to some kind of like positive things, and there's no access for negative information in their paradigm. But secondly, throw in of like financial human capital also capital show that lies the lies in attention accelerate the view that this technology is kind of very good things and thus many people invest, etc. There's no opportunity to doubt why this technology have like some kind of problem or harm, etc. for general public. But sadly, the voice of like potential victim or opposer will be fade away in their paradigm. Since like there's overwhelming information onto the positive aspect as we already repeatedly told you. But secondly, those kind of like people doesn't want to hear such kind of like negative aspects of the technology because new technology seems cool and it's glorified by, for example, company in order to incentivize people to buy, etc. I think those kind of like like having new technology, etc., is kind of like status for like general public, etc. I think those kind of people doesn't buy into that the like some kind of like art say from like oppose that. But for 3, like feedback from like users, etc., not so much give impact to the general public. I think there's since like the who purchased doesn't want to give negative like feedback in the very first place, since it's glorified, since it's like kind of like since it's glorified, it seems to against societal boom if you feel negative against this kind of like technology. So I think that those kind of negative feedback are unlikely to available in their cyber paradigm. So these are the why like the better discourse for the usage of technology is unlikely to occur in their cyber paradigm. But in our cyber paradigm, it is going to be more good usage of the technology, since A, people more careful into how to use this technology as we already told you, but secondly, investment anyway occur if like incentive is too strong, as the opposition side pointed out. To some extent, technology anyway needed, but such anyway needed. So I think that in our cyber paradigm, since we also available for the negative information, we better off in the good usage of the technology without blindly believing into the technology. Very proud to propose.
Thank you to the government and like the opposition.
Okay, my voice is clear, okay. Two issues from it. First of all, how people's perception and discourse on both paradigms looks like. The secondly, why development exclusively occur on yourself's half, and why this scale of the benefit trickle down is more better off on yourself's half. So first of all, how people's perception and discourse looks like on both paradigms. So first thing coming from their side is that, like, I think their unproven assumption, I think they assume that on the paradigm they can value neutral, right? For example, because they say that then people can discuss the traditional method and new technology equally, and equally they can recognize the good aspect and bad aspect of new technology. First of all, I think this premise of this their counterfactual, their paradigm, completely value neutral, is quite unlikely, right? Because first of all, like the government world is a place without this rise of optimism, right? Which means that I think comparatively they have to support is a more pessimistic heavy. I think neutral recognition is quite unlikely. But also secondly, my partner also told you that human tendency is more likely to be less pessimistic in order to avoid the potential harm, but also prefer why they are more likely tend to prefer the status quo or traditional methods they are talking about. I don't know traditional methods they are talking about what mean by the way. But lastly, also my partner told you that people who like benefited through this traditional one more likely to more have the power on their side to have, right? Because they are already benefited by this structure. I think this kind of large corporation rather than new venture capital, new rising for investing in new technology, etc. Right? Which means that I think they're like people who also have a power or rely on the traditional method is more likely to negatively depict the new technology. For example, it can because they are potential threat to their profit, right? Which means that I think more negative campaign, for example, I think demonetization is more likely to occur on their side. How? But that's why I think their premises of their side, complete neutral, is quite untrue. Secondly, they say that on our paradigm, they see the negative aspect likely to be clouded out, because, for example, they see that the people cannot discuss negative one, etc. Totally untrue. So first of all, I think in the first place, what kind of negative aspects they are talking about, by the way, I don't know. Why this I don't know why this absence of discourse on the unclear negative aspect is how bad, by the way. But secondly, but it's untrue, right? Because it is right, which means that it is our paradigm is mixture of the I don't know. Mixture of positive outlook on new tech, also negative outlook on technology, right? Which means that complete absence of negativity is quite unlikely and not true given that on the rise. But secondly, additionally, three responses. First of all, it is unlikely because first of all, people are unlikely to be totally optimistic or 100% optimistic on our side. It's quite unlikely, right? Because generally people have likely to have the question towards new unknown thing because they want to avoid the harm, right? Which, for example, the ethical question of the AI or concern of the labor replacement, this discussion is very rampant. Very likely to rampant, right? Because what happened on our side is more likely that, for example, people more try to discuss how we can coexist or integrate this new technology into their life, etc. on good balance, right? Because people are more aware of the both aspects. But secondly, I think necessity to assess this negativity is more likely to higher on ourselves, right? Because technology's impact is more likely to applicable to more larger scales of people, right? Which means that if some harm occur, if more people more likely to go to damage, right? Which means that I think more people still think that they have to be more conscious about this risk in order to avoid that. For example, state is more likely to invest in the research of the potential risk or invent the solvency, etc. Right? So implications are okay. So but secondly, I think the other is negativity is more likely to become visible on your side for more. So firstly, the scale of the people who use it more increase, which means that, for example, if the I don't know what kind of negative aspects they're talking about, but if they, for example, the privacy program in the AI, etc., since it is more direct problem to people have more incentive to focus on, and which can be more captured media attention to showcase this problem arising, right? But also, I think corporations are more focusing on this, tackling with this issue, insofar as the more on ourselves has more new capture, more corporations more likely to join this competition, which means that more focusing on this potential risk, or trying to appealing the stance of caring about this solution is risk or etc. is more can be strategically competitive advantage, which means that I think more corporations try to deter this program in the first place. So implication is that the government say new technology create new program, so they not cry for new program in the first place. But even if it's true, I think program also likely to be the issue of discussion on our side. It can be carried over the necessity of the tackling risk is more likely to highlight it on our self-house. So it is the perception of this first point. So secondly, why development exclusively happen on our self-house? So firstly, they say that it's not mission exclusive because so they say that they know so they say that investment anyway over because investors are curious people. Several responses to that. First of all, even if they are curious, it's not comparative, right? Because invest into new technology can be still less attractive than other alternative, right? Because it is far more difficult to expect a return from this new investment, or particularly for the negativity pessimistic image can be rampant on their self-house. So in particular, anyway, insofar as anyway investors have increased still risk, I think more pessimistic one, more like with the likely priority of the invest, which more promising one, right? But secondly, even if it's still extent is different, right? On our side, more likely to occur, investment likely to occur because there's more investors think that it is worth using money. But secondly, it's not engaging our point, right? Because we told you even if investment occur, the scale of benefit to trickle down is limited on government paradigm, right? Because people more hesitate to using technology or hesitate to take the trade-off of using the money into the new unsure technology. So it's our point. So our impact is But secondly, they say that even if investment occur, it's good because risky investment will decrease. I'm not sure to what extent, but I think it's no problem, right? And risky investment are likely to on ourselves have because people invest more incentive to assess the risk because the option to invest more increase on our side. That way they have to compare that the program more. They are more likely to more conscious about the program. So I think so that the development is more likely to occur on ourselves have. So they say that they know technological benefit, then anyway invest, but I think it's quite unlikely because negative depiction can be more power on their side. It is very important because more accessible on our side, right? Because the new technology can be the field worth investing, but also scale merit. If user increase, corporations don't need to set more high loyalty, high bar to use money. For example, ChatGPT 3 can be for free access for the people, etc. Right? I think this is important because exclusively middle class people who otherwise can't access on their side can be benefited. For example, small medium corporation, we have over 90% people engaging. If they start to use increase efficiency by introducing cloud, etc., it can be minimize unnecessary working hours, for example, right? I think it is very important. So they say that SME only anyway use, but I think it's just assertion. So they say that technology takes some time, but I think it cannot deny the benefit from technology, right? But yet, I think it's quite unrealistic that corporations try to create perfect form of technology only one time, right? Likely scenario is more agile development. Once they innovate some form of technology, then they gradually level up. I think it's importantly at first point it's quite beneficial rather than unknown creation methods they are talking about. So from this we are happy to both.
Thank you to the opposition group and let the opposition reply speak.
Okay, thank you everybody. Let me summarize this debate from two perspectives. Firstly, how government society would look like. Secondly, how operational society look like, that will be more rationalized and more development, which can protect more vulnerable people in the society. First of all, government side, how it look like. They wanted context to be very neutral, rational evaluation of the new technology in their server house. Therefore, some long-term investment exists and people are careful. But the problem of government is how this context is likely. This was already hugely negated by our server house. We already told you how human tendency to be conservative because they are afraid of new technology, they don't want to be replaced, and also people in power currently have incentive to do negative campaign as they say that through SNS or something like that. In that kind of situation, negative aspects of the new technology are likely to be amplified on the side of the house. Why this is important? First of all, rational evaluation of the new technology cannot be achieved in their side. It's not rational, it's not neutral, it's just negative. Secondly, investment is not strong. I know their strategy, or in long term, anyway, investment will happen, therefore it's okay. But speed is very important. If your development of new technology, for example, like prevent pollution or something like that, 20 years later, this 20 years is very important. Because of this 20 years later, like people will suffer from the PM 2.5 or like rise of sea level or whatever. Those vulnerable individuals will be suffering in this 20 years, something like that. Those things will be faster in our side. We already told you how like collective action can be achieved, like Buffett effect or like scale of economy or like feedback from user. All these things exclusively happen on our side. That will exponentially increase the speed of development of new technology. That will trickle down to the very protection of vulnerable people. Therefore, on our side, speed is very important. In their side, or like those protection cannot be achieved. Secondly, how our society with techno-optimism look like. Government wanted our world to be like people radically evaluate too much good points of AI, therefore there's very irrational calculations. We already told you how this context is unlikely. We already told you how like optimists also are aware of some existence of pessimists, therefore they have incentive to cater to their demand. Secondly, like actual voice from a potential victim of those kind of replacement of job or something like that actually can be reached to the general public even on our side. The intuition pump is a Hollywood like actor, actress worked, striked and such kind of things. This is possible. They try to say, oh, even if this voice exists, like overwhelming about the positive like evaluation will crowd out these kind of things. Actually, it did not crowd out. We know that news, and we know that it is amplified because, as I already told you, like there are some voices and people have a capacity to tell such kind of messages by using SNS, and also especially when media focuses on how new technology would look like. In this sense, also media have incentives to try to focus on some minor problem of like AI or like introducing something very important things. In this sense, we can be notified that too much rapid growth and no consideration about like replacement will hurt people. Therefore, if so necessary, that politicians or people have incentive to some regulations not to hurt those kind of development something like that exists. In this sense, in our side, more like nuanced like development and protection of the vulnerable people exist. In this sense, like our side have more nuanced explanation about how likely society and this will protect more people in the society. Thus we win this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, government opposition reply speaker, inviting government reply.
Okay, starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's
Let's first deal with the contention about whether tech criticism is positive or not. I think GovOp told us that if these things prevent development and investment and these things are important. The premise of opposition is that the same amount of positive and negative ideologies about technology increase, but this is quite unlikely since glorification is done by companies with large amounts of financial capital in order to push the narratives that help them make money and sell these products to individuals, right? Problem with that is that okay, cool. So why is it likely to be unequal? Okay, firstly, companies have massive amount of financial capital. Secondly, social narrative of wanting to be engaged in what the hottest new piece of technology is likely to be quite dominant. Thirdly, it's usually inclined to be optimistic when optimism is affirmed to be beneficial in reducing like things like time or making life like marginally better. Fourthly, problem with the explanation of like how Hollywood and like AI replaced actors exist is that all of these are far removed from our own reality. All of these happen to other people. Likely, we are not going to empathize with these individuals to the point where technological optimism is overrated, right? That likely means that you're likely to have positive outlooks towards technological development. We told you that pessimism is positive in that criticism allows for prevention of investment into risky technology that has tangible harmful outcomes for individuals on the ground. I think this likely means that investments that promise new technology, that promise new advancement into previously untapped fields are likely going to be invested on their side of the house. The problem with this is that evaluation of the risks is therefore justified in the name of a necessary evil in order to create advancements within society. I think that's largely harmful, given that there's going to be tangible outcomes for these individuals, for individuals that are exposed to this technology, but all of this is justified in the name of new creations and things like that, right? I think it's far better to err on the side of caution when there is high likelihood of tangible harmful outcomes for these individuals. Okay, whether speed or risk and investment occurs. Okay, speed is not ensured, even if investment does occur on their side of the house. Multiple layers of checks in order for needed to be reached in order for the market to for the technology to actually reach the market and benefit people. That's likely going to take a significant amount of years. I think they told you that they're going to be able to expedite the speed of this, but I don't really understand to what extent you're able to do that and whether all of that is justifiable, even when we present to you all of the harms that are given to you by government. I think B, there's no way to affirm that all of these advancements are going to be especially that they're going to actually work. Anyway, I think we already told and see evaluation outcome that benefits outweigh risks and things like that. I think process of the harm that imposed during the process are largely going to be ignored, and that in of itself is a negative. Anyways, probably investment occurs on either side of the house. We already told you multiple reasons for this. We told you that venture capitalists are likely going to want to take advantage of a relatively untapped market. Even if investment of small and medium companies increases, we think that's a good thing. Firstly, less risk exposure. I think that's good as long as you're a small company with relatively little resources. Secondly, you're more careful about the evaluation of whether you implement this technology or not. Three, you don't justify outcomes via whether it makes you more productive. I think if the technology is so useful to the point where the benefits outweigh the risks, big corporations are likely to use it anyway, and all of this is going to trickle down to small companies regardless of techno-optimism. It was Oxford to prove why techno-optimism is needed for you to for the normalization of implementing this technology. Then I think what's most important here is how this is going to impact individuals, and impacts we told you were twofold. Firstly, that the evaluation of technological advancement is going to increase. B, that people are going to be able to defend themselves towards the general optimism that gets companies to buy into their products. Very proud to